This is going to be a fun one for me. It's always great when you can bring friends together to have a conversation about things. But in this instance, what I want to just kind of follow up with is last week's episode. We talked a lot about COVID-19, the coronavirus, and how that is impacting authors, book marketers, and publishers around the world. And one of the things that I had discussed at that point in time was that this is a time when using a skill called soft marketing is going to be really important. And so soft marketing is something that people are more accustomed to doing when they're in media or podcasts, where they've been trained in those appearances to talk more about their knowledge and their content than they are to focus on the book. The book becomes ancillary to the conversation. Of course, it's the basis of where that information can be encapsulated. It's interesting because in trying to look up a definition for this particular soft marketing, I found an article that is actually from 2016, and I'm going to drop this in the comments so that people can come back. But one of the things that the article talks about is how important soft marketing is as a skill. So the idea here is they even get into how Coca-Cola went from being very in your face about buying Coke to these much more subtle advertising campaigns where Coke became secondary to the story or the message they were sharing. And so one of the things I felt was really important in this particular time is our self-care, our mental health. We're going through challenging circumstances in a difficult situation at this point in time. So I decided to bring together a few of my friends that I find to be very inspirational and to have powerful messages that can help you through this time. And we're going to talk about our knowledge and expertise in this area to give you an example of what soft marketing might look like in the context of your book. Of course, each of these are authors. So I'm going to start first by introducing Susanna Liller. Susanna Liller is the author of You Are a Heroine. And then after that, I have here my friend, Linda Lattimore. And so she is the author of Solutionaries. And then next we have a dear old friend of mine whose name is Barry Spilchuk. Barry wrote The Cancer Dance. And more recently, he has a book coming out soon that is on I'm Not Done Yet. And one of the things I've always loved about Barry is that his message is very spot on for talking about how to turn your mess into a bless. And so how to take the challenges that we face in life and look at those circumstances and create something from them. So thanks everyone for being on with me. It's so glad to hear you and have you here.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. Yes.
So Susanna, I'm going to start with you just because I'm going to go clockwise. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your book?
Okay. Well, I live in Maine, and we were talking before we went on live that one Linda is by herself, but I have a house full because my daughter and her family are here. So things are lively at my house. They've all been told to stay away while we do this. So my book is about the heroine's journey, the arc that a woman takes in her life to come to her full potential. And there are actual milestones that the book talks about. There's 3 women in the book that give their stories. And I'm trying to show women that they are heroines too, and they could put their own life and experiences in that same arc. And it's very empowering.
Wonderful. And Barry, how about you? Tell us about you.
Wow, I am blessed to still be alive. As you know, Tara, years ago, I went in an 18-month period. Most kids learn their ABCs in 18 seconds. I learned mine in 18 months. Accident, bankruptcy, cancer, divorce, employee theft, and a failed business. And a psychiatrist actually asked me, how did you not go crazy? And I said, well, I'm a God guy, and that helped. But so I overwhelmed, and then when all that got fixed and everything got turned around, it was such a blessing. I got cancer again. And it was like, okay, how do we deal with this? And then I'd say, what's God trying to tell me here? So I wrote the Cancer Dance book in response to to how to find the bless in the mess, or how to find the bless in the stress. And then lately, I've just been called to release the new book. It's called I'm Not Done Yet. Okay, everyone deserves an encore. And it's for those of us who are over 40, I'm 62, who are saying, you know what, I've got so much more to give, so much more to live. But why, if I'm so important, how come I feel so invisible? And it's for those people who say, when all you've ever wanted isn't enough. And so that's where I'm playing right now.
That's wonderful. And Linda.
Thanks, Tara. So I'm just sitting here listening to the other authors, and it's great to find some kindred spirits. I wrote Solutionaries, which this is really comical because obviously these are all my favorite colors. If you look at the picture behind me, everyone knows my whole website. So I wrote Solutionaries because I had a lot of people coming to me who were feeling flat, unfulfilled. They were watching the bad news long before we knew how bad the news could really get a couple of years ago, and just wishing that they had something else to do. And my personal opinion is that when we're heart connected to our work and in service of some sort, then we're probably going to be a lot happier people. But I wanted to write a book where you could actually make money and still be heart connected, not just be looking at what's your passion, what's your purpose. Right. So that's why I wrote Solutionaries. I think everyone is here to help fix something, has one piece to the jigsaw puzzle, and our puzzle isn't complete without it.
Well, Linda, I have to comment on the fact that I think your favorite color is your favorite color because it goes so well with your eyes.
Right in there, right? But it is pretty comical because, you and I were had a lot of conversation about these colors.
We did. So we've had a lot of fun. Both Susanna and Linda are Emerald Lake Books authors. Barry is somebody that I knew, actually, we met at Sang back in 2012, I think it was. And we've been on quite a journey with one another in various mastermind groups. And he was a speaker at my 2013 Survivor Summit. And so we've had a long history together. Barry, one of my favorite stories is actually after one of our mastermind meetings, we were getting taken out to a steakhouse in New York City and had to grab a taxi cab with him in a hospital gown and man panties. And, it'd staying in character. When he does his speaking engagements, he comes out with Ivy, the Ivy pole, and in his hospital gown and man panties, and it's quite a stitch. So
you and Jack Nicholson, right?
What was that?
Jack Nicholson.
So let me ask you all something, and we're just having a conversation here, but a lot of people are stuck at home. We've talked about some of us are alone, some of us are in a house full, and we're going through a lot right now, all the way around the world. And so what are some of the recommendations you have for different ways that people can remain positive during this time?
How about humor?
I think that's a huge one.
Finding the humor in anything, that you possibly can, I think is a really important thing to do right now. Mm-hmm. And I read this great article even this morning, I think it was, about not trying to be too productive. I think there's so many people that think, oh, I have this extra time and I'm going to do all these projects. And with everything else they're trying to adapt to and adjust to as things are unfolding so quickly, to try to pile too much on your plate is just a recipe for burnout, I think. So you don't have to be so productive.
Mm-hmm.
I know the first thing that happened to me as we started to get quarantined here in Toronto was I started to feel this tremendous wave of shame and guilt. Mm-hmm. All the things that I've done in the past that aren't ready to go to market yet. Yeah. Like I wanted to save 1 million marriages. The program is created, but it's not online yet. And I wanted, and when I wrote this book, 20 years ago, A Cup of Chicken Soup for the Soul, we sold 580,000 books, but there was no email marketing back then. So I didn't capture one email name. So I started to feel guilty about all the things that I didn't do. And there was a sense of shame. And I always say shame is secretly hiding a monstrous experience. Like, what did I do or not do that I should have got done? Then after sitting with that for a little while, I said, you know what? I forgive myself. It's never too late to start again. I'm starting now. So when I announced the new book, the I'm Not Done Yet, and I got 500 books delivered to my door last week, and they can't go anywhere. So I decided, here's what we're going to do. And I decided to start releasing the stories one at a time with a Facebook video every day. The response has been amazing. The private messages, especially, because I'm not afraid to share anything on there. So the private messages I'm getting have been amazing. And so it's never too late to start. So forgive yourself for not getting all the writing done, for not having the website up, and just step forward and look forward to when this is over, I'm going to have this done, or I'll be that much closer to having this done.
How about you, Linda?
I think this is such a reflective time for all of us. I'm trying very hard to stay out of the news. I mean, I've been isolated for 4 weeks by myself in the house. And so the news is I can get into my head really, really easily. And there's nothing that I can do about what's going on out there right now. I can make sure that I'm not out in it and exposing anyone and myself. So I'm finding that going through this work, and actually I'm working with a lot of the people right now on the materials from the book and really understanding what their value proposition is based on their life experiences, not on their work or on their education, because so many jobs are falling away. Industries are starting to fall away, but there's a bunch of other ones that are stepping into place. This will be, like other crises, one of the most innovative and productive times ever. We are moving to market so fast and so quickly, shifting and tacking. It's a really interesting space to watch if you can take a bird's eye view and step up here and kind of look at all the really interesting good things that are happening and not get sucked into the lower energy space where you're just in fear. But what can you do? Like, what can you do right now to educate yourself? I signed up for 3 classes. I mean, we all know I'm a techno nerd. I signed up for an Instagram. I signed up for a YouTube. I signed up for an Adobe workshop, Photoshop, on Udacity. They're $11 right now, and there's a lot of MOOCs right now, Udacity, Coursera, Udemy, that are offering great classes. This is a great time to shift and retool and learn some new stuff so that when we swing out of it, you are even better prepared than ever to shift and tack with new jobs. So that's what I'm telling everyone I'm working with right now.
Yeah, it's interesting from my standpoint. One of the things that I've encountered is that I need to give myself permission to feel what I'm feeling and to recognize that I'm probably cycling through more feelings in a 24-hour period now than I would an entire week normally. Last night, just before bedtime, for some reason, just out of nowhere, suddenly I felt incredibly lonely. And it was like, nothing had changed, but I was suddenly very, very lonely. And, one of the things that I've discovered this week too, is I'm typically very focused and very productive. And this week has felt like everything's helter skelter. And, just giving myself permission to say, okay, you're not using your normal tools for remaining productive. Normally I listen to Brain FM while I'm working on something and it keeps me very focused. And so I have tools I can use if I want to fix this, or I can just say, it's okay that I'm not focused right now because I will be when I need to be.
Well, the weather too, Tara. I don't know what y'all are experiencing, but it was raining really hard a few days ago, and we all got real depressed because I'm running like a support group every evening with people who are alone. And then the sun came out, and everybody felt real productive. And then it started raining again, and you could just feel that even with all the news, the weather contributes so much to your mood.
For me, I think partly it's the fact that my son got laid off on Friday. So up until that time, I've been pretty much alone at the house. And now he's home and he's dealing with the angst of losing his very first job. He's never lost one before. And as much as the shop hopes to open up again in the future, he doesn't know for certain. So he had to apply for unemployment and he's dealing with a health issue and all these different things. So his sleep pattern is so off kilter right now. He's sleeping much of the day and up much of the night. And that I found was impacting me because I was looking forward to, at the end of my workday, spending some time with him. And he was dead to the world. So it was like, all right, well, that doesn't feel very good.
That would be like my husband, who's now working from home, who works in the living room. And he got up at 3 a.m. because he couldn't sleep and wanted to write this letter. So guess who else woke up and went to sleep? But yeah, just to follow up on the giving permission, I never have allowed myself, well, rarely, to take a nap during the day. I mean, that's just not how I feel I can be productive. I was feeling overwhelmed yesterday. I took a nap. I felt so much better afterwards. It was like I had turned a page.
Well, that's part of keeping your health up right now too, right?
Right.
We may need more sleep than we normally would to compensate all this emotion.
Right.
Right.
Well, one of the other questions I wanted to ask is if you have any thoughts on how people can provide their self-care when they have to go out and work. as I said, up until Friday, my son had to go out. He had to be in this. You've got all the healthcare workers, the grocery store, clerks, all these different folks that have to go to work, and yet they're also dealing with all the same fears and uncertainties that we currently are. So do you have any thoughts on that?
My first thought is not everybody's going to agree with this, because not everybody has the same belief system, but I'm a big believer in God. And I always just say a prayer. Even when we go up to get groceries now, it's like, it's kind of scary out there and you got to put a mask on. And I just say, Heavenly Father, surround me with your love and energy. And, other people who don't believe in God, they surround themselves with a white light or whatever. So whatever it is for you, just picture yourself leaving your apartment, do what you have to do, being safe, keeping your distance from everybody, and picture yourself 15 minutes after getting home and you feel blessed, you feel safe, you feel clean, and just do whatever you have to do. And if you're scared in the moment, admit that you're scared. It's okay, I'm scared. It just makes me be more aware of my surroundings and what I have to do, but always focused on the end result. Picture yourself coming home safe and sound.
Mm-hmm. I think that's good advice. We seem to have lost Susanna, so I'm hoping she comes back in shortly. Let me see a better configuration there. We'll do that. But one of the things that I do a similar thing when I'm feeling really low, I make a point of imagining, what am I going to feel like a week from now or a month from now or a year from now? Am I still going to be feeling this? Mm-hmm. And if I am, then it's something that I really need to take action on. I need to do something about. And if I'm not going to be feeling that way, then I need to give myself permission just to experience it, let it be what it is, and let go of it when I don't need it anymore.
I was like, last night I was really rattled. I work, but I found that I watched 2 Hallmark movies. And it was 10 o'clock and I I don't know why I read a murder mystery at midnight. And then I just had this whole fear thing. But I've been having people post on Facebook about how, people were buying more and more guns and crime was going to go up. And so, living by yourself, all of a sudden, I started getting really nervous at midnight. And I literally have to stop and say to myself every single time, and it works, am I okay right this minute? Yes. Right this minute, I am fine. I can't think much past in the future or tomorrow or the next day, but as long as I stay in the present, and we all know about staying in the present. We've read all of Eckhart Tolle's books, right? But if I can do that and go, yeah, the dog's right here with me. I have plenty of food in the freezer, plenty of toilet paper. I have a nice place to live. Am I okay right this minute? Then I can breathe. Mm-hmm. And then I can go to bed. And then every time I find myself spinning out, I personally have to come back in and go, am I okay right this minute? Yes. And it's that, but it's constantly pulling back. I tend to worry about my family. I have my son-in-law is a Navy doctor. So, he's in San Diego and they're facing stuff. And my daughter is, they have a 1-year-old. And so, he has to go to the house and go straight to the showers and everything else. And that's an added layer for them, knowing what he's doing right now.
Mm-hmm. I liked the fact that you spoke about having a group that gets together each night. One of the things that my church has done is we've had to take church online, which is very strange. And I belong to a small congregational church where the majority of the folks in my congregation are older. So there's a lot of the technical things that they're not familiar with, and this isn't as comfortable for them. And so we have a team of people at church who have taken it upon themselves to reach out via phone, send emails, texts, whatever, so that they're, especially those who are more isolated, where they're living alone, they're not going out because they're at a higher risk for health concerns. We make a point of calling them. And I tell you, when I am feeling low, the best thing I can do is pick up the phone with the intent of helping somebody else who's alone. Because by the time I'm done, I feel so much better. Just knowing that I was able to, bring some happiness to their isolation. Yeah. And I often feel better myself as well. And they all adopt me. They all become my mom.
That's great. I'm just, the little group we have meets at 5:30 and there's just girlfriends of mine for years, and some believe it or not, one's in Tokyo, so she doesn't get on very often. It's coffee at 4:30 in the morning for her. But we have people in California and Philadelphia and Florida and Texas, and whoever wants to show up shows up with a glass of wine or a cup of tea. And inevitably somebody will be, we try not to talk about morbid stuff, just what'd you do today and how can I support you? Someone's giving a lot of information about all the loans that are coming out for business. Others are trying to homeschool their kids and they're putting out curriculum to share with each other. And there may be 5 or 6 people, there may be 2, but whoever showed up because they wanted a friendly face that day. So it's really helpful to me.
I have kind of a different take on this, and I don't know why I disappeared, but I'm back. So I have this tool called Doing a Circle, and I do talk about it in my book, which I haven't showed you yet. But also I did a separate whole book about what I call circle power. And I too, Barry, am a believer in God, but this is really just a simple way to manage your thoughts. And when you find yourself being anxious and kind of going down that tunnel of despair, draw a circle. And on the outside of the circle, put all the thoughts that you don't want to have. So I did this, and I did it for how I experienced the pandemic. And on the outside, I put anxious, worried, isolating, getting nothing done, bemoaning, complaining. And after you do what you don't want, then on the inside of the circle, you put your, what do you want? You want to be calm. You want to see the silver lining, everything that you do want. And then I tell people to just cut away the outside and put the inside somewhere where they can see it, so that when your thoughts start going there, you can look at what you put on the inside of the circle and remind yourself, this is how I want to discipline my thoughts. These are my intentions, my affirmations. And it really helps.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really like that a lot. I'm going to try that myself.
Yeah. Good.
Wonderful suggestion. So what do you suggest that, there are a lot of people who, Linda, you talked about gaining some skills, gaining some new knowledge so that when this is over, whenever that is, we're better positioned. But there's a lot of uncertainty as to when that's going to be, what the future is going to look like. So how do you deal with uncertainty during times like this?
Well, strange, this is going to sound really strange. I'm never certain. I mean, life, like for everybody else, has given me sort of a lot of twists and turns, and I turned it over a long time ago to just be present and accepting of what shows up my way and try really hard to be in the moment with it. I mean, it makes it sound like I know exactly what I'm doing, and I don't. I don't profess to. I'm as vulnerable as everybody else to this situation. But the one thing I know, there's certain things I can control and there's certain things I can't. And I cannot control, I can control my own behavior right now, but I can't control anything else. So once I set that parameter for myself, I'm just trying to think, what would make me more interesting? What would I find enjoyable? Like, I love to paint, but I'm horrible at it. So I found a little drawing class that it's 7 minutes. He has a whole bunch of little videos for 7 minutes on YouTube, and I take a break out of writing or working on something and might be learning how to just do a stick person or a piece of fruit. But it shifts my head into something I'm doing at the moment that I can concentrate on.
I think too, the way people are talking about this is a huge reset. I had a coaching client who came to me before this all started, and she was in philanthropy and raising money. And as she has progressed through what we've all been progressing through, she knows now she doesn't want to do that anymore. And her values and priorities, as are mine, and I think everybody's, are changing, so that when we come out of this, we're going to be different. So I think what you said, Linda, how can we be certain when this is going to change us? And so what better thing to do than be in the moment? But I will just add that the whole heroine's journey or hero's journey arc, it's about us growing. And so if you know that that's the path you're on, which we are, then it is going to work out for you. And then back to what Barry was saying, I do believe that we have somebody also there to help, God or universe or whatever.
Yeah.
What about you, Barry?
Well, may I share something that, because of this crisis, has made me think, and then a product idea. Again, I'm not trying to sell. There's nothing to sell here, but I just, for the authors. So first of all, a mental tip, let's say we're going to be locked in for 3 more months. It's like, but now think back 3 months ago. It was Christmas time. Think back around the Christmas time or Hanukkah time and think about your family and having a great time. That seems like yesterday. So if we concentrate on the panic, we're going to get more panic. So concentrate on something great 3 months from now. So like I had alluded to earlier, they dropped off 500 copies of my book in a box. We live in an apartment. where are we going to put 500 books? Well, they're in my bedroom, so I get to sleep with my books. But I said, well, how do I get the word out about this? And I said, well, it's 33, and this is a business thing. I'm sharing for all of your consideration. And again, there's nothing to buy. There's no opt-in. So I said, there's 33 stories in here. What should I do? I said, well, you know what? Why don't I just go live on Facebook every day, and I'll tell one of the stories, and there's a quote like we did in Chicken Soup for the Soul, but this one I also put a Bible quote at the end. And so we did that. And as I started to go live, I started to think, well, how else can I serve? What am I going to do with these 33 videos when they're done? So now, as a product creation strategy, when those videos are done, I'm shooting the video for every day, and they're between 10 and 15 minutes every day. I also go and do another video, and based on that story, and say the story behind the story. Okay. And so, yeah, here's what I told you in the story. Here's what I couldn't tell you because we'd have been here for an hour. So now there's 2 videos every day, one they see, one that will be private. And then I'm also creating an assignment page on how to get unstuck. Okay. I'm creating the Unstuck Handbook. So when this is over, like 33 days from now, and I might need a couple of days to put it all together, I'm going to have a brand new product. There'll be, the free story that I can just peter out. Then there's going to be the story behind the story, all about how to find out what the ladies have already talked about, Linda and Susanna, and you two, Tara, about how to not only just find your purpose, like, is there, what did you love to do when you were a kid? Well, I mean, everybody asks those questions, but let's go a little bit deeper. And then, so we've got something to offer people at the end. So what can you do at home to create a product that, well, what if nobody wants it? Well, what if nobody wants it today, but what if they do want it? The more we find out about ourselves, the more they want to know, because the more honest we are, the more they go, I can trust that person. I want to play at a deeper level.
And in all honesty, Barry, one of the reasons when I talked about shooting this episode last week, you hadn't come to mind to invite yet. I had Linda, I had Susanna, and I had another author. And when I saw what you were doing with your new book, it was like, this is the best form of soft marketing I have ever seen, because it comes from a very service-based place. You're still talking about your book, but each day you're sharing the insights from each chapter. Mm-hmm. And as a result, it gives some great visibility for the book. And yeah, your pre-orders, you're probably going to sell all 500 copies as soon as you open up your shopping cart, right? But in the meantime, what you've done is you've created anticipation for that book, because they've watched these videos, and having a course after it just gives you a great upsell to promote in the book as well as later on. Mm-hmm. So, you're establishing a funnel to go with the book, which is really, really important to do.
But he's also giving. I mean,
it's all comes from a place of service. Yep. That giving is important.
We really need that. Yeah,
yep.
Definitely.
So let's see, what other questions did I have? How do you think we can become more flexible and adaptable?
Oh, geez.
I have one.
All right, go ahead, Barry.
We're certainly in college on it right now, aren't we? So.
Yes.
May I go?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
that's
we all know this series. I mean, Chicken Soup for the Soul, and it was my idea to shrink it down, call it Cup of Soup. So the point I like to make from an author's business perspective is success creates gaps. And what do I mean by that? Well, I went through 3,000 stories to print 88 stories in this book. That means 2,900 people were left out. Okay. Also, when we went public with it, I got the rousing investment of, I got 22 cents a book for this. That's it. Now, but it was 22 cents US. So in Canadian, it was like $5,000 a book because of the exchange. Okay. But what it really hit me was there's got to be a better way to serve humanity and mankind. And with due respect to Jack and Mark, I mean, I love them. They got the same because the publisher kept all the money. And I said, what if we could create something that everybody got involved. And, the old principle is people support what they help create. So what I did was I created a new series of books. Now, this is 10 years ago. So it's called You're My Hero. It's essentially chicken soup for the soul for your hometown. Okay. So, and I said, well, what's gonna be different? Well, nobody's left out. So if you submitted a story and it didn't get in there, you got your name and your hero's name in the book. We kept all of the stories on the website while they were live. And what we did was I went to a local retailer. I never sold this book in the bookstores in our hometown. I went to the local hardware store, one of these big box stores, and I said, if I sell this book for $20, and here's my plan, I'm giving $8 a book to the women's shelter, because that was my favorite charity. Mommy and the kids need a place to go when daddy gets out of hand, right? So because I was the publisher, I said, guys, I'm going to sell this for $20. I'm going to give $8 a book to the women's shelter. If I do that, what will you do? How much will you give me back of the $20? And the guy said, do you promise that you're going to give the money back to the women's shelter? I said, it's a small town. They'll crucify me if I don't, and of course I'm going to. And the guy said, then I'll give you back the whole $20. So long story short, because this could go on forever, in a period of 30 days, we donated $27,000 to the women's shelter. $17,000 to the women's shelter and $10,000 to other little charities like minor sports and everything like that. And what ended up happening is those people wanted to come on board and buy a sponsorship because, hey, we want to be a part of this community book. Nobody was left out. And in an answer to a prayer on the morning of the launch inside the store, we had 515 people at the book launch, and I refused to sell books at the book launch. Everybody who wrote a story got a free book, but I said, you got to go to the hardware store to pick up the book. So on the morning of the book launch, I'm having a shower, and I said, Heavenly Father, how do I make this a better idea? And as I'm showering, I got goosebumps down my left hand, but not my right. So I said, no, I know something's coming. So there's a lady there at 10 to 9. She says, I want to be the first customer. And I said, hear me, I want you to be the first customer too. And as I hand her the book, and it said, Dear Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Merry Christmas, Barry. As I hand her the book, I get this, I call it Gmail, God mail or gut mail, whatever you want to call it. It said, give her another book. And it was like, because these cost me $2 to print. So at the time. So I went, okay. So I said, Mrs. Smith, before you go, I want to give you another book. And she goes, no, I only want one. I said, I know you do, but I want you to sign this one. I'm going to pay for it. And we're going to give it to the local military base. And she said, what? And I said, we're going to give it to the military base. You sign it. Dear troops, Merry Christmas, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And she starts crying. And I said, you want to talk? And she goes, no. I said, if you could give the tears a voice, what would they say? She says, my brother's in Afghanistan right now. I made it a policy on the spot that everybody who bought a book, I gave a free book to the military. We donated 1,600 books to the military. We also gave, my wife and I decided that the Santa Claus Fund, they needed 750 food baskets. So we gave 750 books. So everybody got a basket. So one little idea, this, okay, it created some gaps. So for those of you who are watching at home and listening at home, I want you to start thinking of all the successful things you see and what are the gaps? And out of the gap, we created this that gave $27,000 to charity and 1,600 books to the military, 750 books to the Santa Fund. And use your creativity to say, oh, well, these guys are rich and I'm not. Well, okay, well, how can you do what they did? But don't do it their way. Do it your own way. So that end of my sermon. Sorry.
Do either of you ladies have anything you want to add to that?
Well, I just would say very simply, a very wise woman said to me recently, what we're going through isn't a pause, it's a pivot. And to just think of, how can you pivot in this time? I mean, that's adapting and not get stuck in the pause, but look at it differently, that there is opportunity and calamity. And so much of what my book is about is listening to your intuition. And in order to do that, you have to get quiet. You have to find a way to be still and listen. So,
Linda, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I wrote a blog recently, and basically what I was thinking about was the fact that I think we want to be really careful that this is not just a detour, but that it's a reset. There'll be a whole bunch of people out there that are just waiting to get back to normal. but the normal that they've known in the past will never, ever, ever again be the normal that we have in the future. There'll be a new normal. So it's a really good time to go, how am I going to totally reset and get back to the benchmark that we need to be at in terms of humanity or anything else, and don't just use it as a detour. For example, I was thinking last night, okay, how much saran wrap do I have? I mean, I've been in here for a few weeks, right? And I have a delivery this afternoon for the organic farms around here. I signed up for their subscription boxes to support the little farms, so I'll get milk and meat and vegetables. But I'm looking at stuff like foil and that kind of stuff. And I'm starting to be very conservative with reusing the foil, probably reusing Ziploc bags and stuff. And I'm thinking we really should have been doing that all along, because we would not have been in the situation that we are in terms of plastics and everything else had we been using our sources without just be so cavalier about it like we've done. So can we use this time to really put some thought into using our resources better going forward now that we've experienced this, and not just taking a detour, but actually doing a full reset?
I think that's a great note to kind of wrap this up on, because we have gone longer than I anticipated. But Linda, can you tell us a bit about what you're working on right now and what's ahead for you?
Yes. So the Solutionaries book is in an online class that I have. It's either in a mastermind with me where we meet on Zoom calls once a week and really dig in deep into understanding what your value proposition is, how you're showing up in the world, and who your alignment partners are. It's also in a do-it-yourself online class, and I'm happy to do a discount code for 40% off for any of the listeners that are listening to this today. I'll give the code to Tara, and for Emerald Lakes, she can put it in the notes later on. But as a result of a lot of those classes, a lot of people came out and said, well, we know what we want to do now, but we don't know how to do it. So my Ready to Launch class is about to go out, where you can learn how to create a benefits corporation, the full legal structure, what does a benefits-driven business look like, and the whole thing. Let's get your business off the ground. It's a great time to write a business plan. It's a great time to think of how you can be a social entrepreneur and move it into the next step. So that's what I'm working on right now.
That's wonderful. And Barry, I know we've talked a bit about your book, but is there anything more that you want to let folks know about it?
No, just again, feel free to tune in every day friend me on Facebook, Barry Spilchuk, or I know Terry, you've got the link there to the UCAN Cafe. And really, something that I'm going to have ready by early next week is the Unstuck Handbook. And again, all of this is free. There's no email sequence that's going to follow to say, oh, you have to buy this. It's just, I think we're in a giving economy. And then ultimately people will say, gosh, is there any more way that I can play with you? I've had numerous people call me and say, Barry, you've written 14 books. Can you help me write mine? That's up to you, Tara. That's you help people write books. I've done 180 people, and it's like,
give them my number.
My stuff, So I just want to thank you for allowing me to be on this call and share what this new giving economy is going to be like, and the possibilities that lay in front of us if we all just acknowledge, okay, I'm scared, and in this moment, like Linda said, I'm okay, and then let's just get to the next moment. So whatever I can do to serve you, Tara, and your flock, I'm here for you.
All right. Thanks so much, Barry. And Susanna.
So my book has the stories of 3 women telling their heroine's journey stories. And they have worked with me. We've put together 8 videos of their stories, telling and explaining the heroine's journey. And I'm going to start putting those on my author Facebook page for free, and having conversations based on each of those 8 videos. So that'll be coming out in April.
Wonderful. And then for Emerald Lake Books, just as a quick update, I know a lot of you are using this time of isolation and reflection to be able to do more writing. I've heard from a lot of people in different writers groups that they're getting some good writing done, or some folks are finding themselves stuck with their writing. I did want to make sure that you are aware that we have an exercise that we do occasionally with our authors that is the Dear Author exercise. It really kind of helps you get unstuck, because it helps you figure out what it is that you want to be accomplished accomplishing in writing whatever it is that you're writing. And we are offering a 50% discount on that particular exercise right now. It's a coaching program, short term. And so if you're interested in that, you'll find all of these links in the comments for this particular show. And I do hope that you are using this time to be kind to yourself, that you are staying healthy, and that you are staying safe. And until next week, actually, I never put up next week's call. It's going to be viewer's choice because I have no idea at this point in this swiftly changing market what it is that I should be talking about next week. So I'm going to ask that you either email or comment on our Facebook page or comment on this particular show what it is that we can be discussing and talking about to help you. So that is it for today's Emerald Lake Books Live. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.